Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This one is going to be with a good buddy of mine, Mr. Bergy Bowsmith. If you don't know who Bergy is, it's actually his nickname. His name is like Jesse Burgunthries, or I think that's how you say it. But we call him Bergy, and the dude is a wizard with bows. I think in this episode, we're going to be talking about mostly all the new stuff that these bows have come out with, some of the new technology, maybe touch a little bit on how he gets all these bows to tune, because this dude can literally tune any bow, bare shaft out to 15 yards. It's insane. The dude's extremely talented. He runs a online archery shop that basically sells all of the stuff that we all use anyway. So if you want to go check him out, it's bergybowsmith.com, and you can look at every single thing he's got on there. You can set up a time for him to shoot, or I guess tune your bow. You do have to send it to him, but he does a great job, and believe me, it's worth it. He also works with Unbound Archery, which makes some of the best strings on the market. I actually plan on getting my bear back there restrung after deer season this year with those strings. There's a lot of cool things about him. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But if you want to go to Bergy's website, it's bergybowsmith.com. Use the code SEBH10, and that will save you 10% site-wide. Okay, all other partners. So we're going to run through these kind of quick. So I got Working Class Bow Hunter. Obviously, I'm wearing the hat. I got the shirt. Those are my boys. Okay, so go to workingclassbowhunter.com, look at all the merchandise that they have, and use the code SEBH15 to save 15%. That is literally one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Kurt's become a really good friend of mine, and honestly, I'm just very thankful to be working with them. Great set of guys, great company, great podcast. Everything about them is awesome. So go check them out. Use that code. Next up is going to be the Boutique. It's actually a mutual friend of mine and Bergy's, and Michael makes some amazing arrow wraps. If you haven't checked him out, go to theboutiquellc.com and use the code SEBHP for free shipping when you pick what you want, whether that's a customized set of wraps or just some wraps that he's already got on the website. You can go ahead and buy, and he will ship them to you. That code will also, like I said, get you free shipping. So make sure to take advantage of that. Osseo gear. Look, last week we had Thomas from Basement Decorator on. We started talking about Osseo, and I'm so happy he brought that up. Osseo is, in my opinion, going to take over the camo industry in the next few years. It is an amazing quality product, amazing brand. Joe is an awesome dude, a hell of a bow hunter. He killed 2 slammer bucks down in Mexico recently. So I can't wait to get him back on here and talk about that. And it's just a really good company. Osseo has been with us for almost 2 years now. It's been great working with them, and I'm looking to many more years ahead with those guys. So go to osseogear.com and look at everything that they have, whether you're getting gear for next season, you want some warm stuff for the last few weeks of season, Christmas gifts, all of that stuff. Use the code SEBH, and that saves you 15%. Summit tree stands. So Summit and Osseo both are 2 of the oldest partners for this podcast, and Summit has been awesome. That Dual Threat Pro SD that I've been using has been fantastic. I really was blown out of the water, honestly. Like the Summit I used to use was really old. It was really good, but it was really old, right? This new updated one is so easy to carry, and it's so easy to set up. Super quiet going up the trees. I love it. They did amazing on it. So if you like climber tree stands or use a hang-on, go to summitstands.com and check out all their climbers, check out their hang-ons, check out their sticks. They got accessories, harnesses, all that stuff, and use the code SEBH15 to save 15% at checkout. Next up is going to be Scout Tech. Planning on hunting the lake this week, and my Scout Tech camera has been doing awesome. The picture quality is honestly top notch. It is really good. I guess they got a really good delivery system. I don't really talk about this much, but their cameras do hourly updates, and I don't really know if other companies do that, but I love that. I hate having to wait like 3 hours or 6 hours or whatever, and then you're waiting all that time anticipating something to show up on that camera, and then you see it's like a squirrel, right? So Scout Tech's got some really, really good stuff coming. I actually just saw something from them recently that was about the new camera, about app updates, about the unlimited data. So there's a lot of big things coming for Scout Tech in 2025. I think for those of us who use it, we're all going to see a huge improvement, even though it was awesome before that. We're going to see many good things coming from them. And if you're looking for a new camera to try out, go to scoutdeck.com and look what they've got. Keep your eye out for that new camera too. Ace Hardware and Social Circle, dude, awesome set of guys. They work on any type of bow. They have all the products that you would need. I love giving them a shout out because those are some of my really good friends. And, I've known them for, God, dude, 4 or 5 years since I started bow hunting. And we've had some ups and downs. That shop has definitely had some ups and downs, but right now they're in a huge up. They are better than they've ever been, and they are stocking some of the most high quality products in the hunting industry. So go check them out if you feel like making the drive. Shout out to John, Mark, Hunter, just awesome dudes. So glad I can get to work with them. Next up is going to be VPA. I say it every week. VPA is an American-made broadhead. It is all fixed blades. They have over 70 different types, and they also offer a lifetime warranty on their broadheads. Okay, so I don't know of any other brand that does that. Really, really good company to work with. Hopefully get to see those guys at TAC this year. And yeah, I just very thankful, very, very thankful. Great product, great set of people. And use the code SEBH10 at checkout at vparchery.com once you go pick out your broadheads, and that'll save you 10%. Dialed archery. So my dialed Arxos, I say it every time, has been working great. They did just come out with a new site called The Proof. It's basically my Arxos, except extremely improved. It's so cool. It honestly is. They've changed a lot of things on there that I would have changed. Just nitpicking little things here and there, and it looks cool. And I know there's a lot of cool things coming with that. They've also got a lot more products that are supposed to be coming out. So go to dialedarchery.com and look at the Arxos, look at The Proof, look at everything else they have to offer, and we will not be disappointed, I promise. Next up is Camo Dust. Look, people don't think you can beat deer's noses. Can you beat it 100%? No. Can you fool them into thinking you're 300 yards away instead of 30 yards away? Yes. I have been doing that all season this year. If I wasn't so damn picky, I probably would have killed more than just one doe this year, but I am going this coming Friday and planning on smacking another doe. And after that, it's strictly bucks till the end of season. I'm sure we'll get into my season so far. It's kind of been a little bit of a struggle here and there, not too terribly bad, but it is what it is. It's why we keep going. It's why we keep doing what we're doing. So check out Camo Dust. Get the 6-pack if you go to their website at camodust.com. It's the best bang for your buck, honestly, because that 6-pack will last you an entire season. Last but not least is going to be Full Force Hunting Products. That is a company out of Michigan that my buddy Dan runs, and they offer minerals, attractants, scents, and scent ropes. And dude, Dan's just a good dude. I actually need to reach out to him to see how he's doing. I haven't talked to him in a while, but Dan's a great dude. Awesome company out there. And, I've used some of their stuff and it's worked great. So go give them a shot and see if you like it. That's all the partners. So, before we dive into it with Bergy, he just texted me saying he's ready when we are. I have to give all the glory to God. I'll make this short because it's a really long story, but my wife's grandfather just passed away this past weekend on December 15th, which is actually my dad's birthday. So that's one of many weird things that has happened the past few days. To put it short, God showed up. Okay. There's a lot of things. If you want to know what happened, I can tell you. Just reach out to me. But God was there. I saw everything that he was doing. It was very obvious. Jesus had them in his hand, in his arms, and I could feel the love in the air. I could feel the presence. I could feel all of that. And honestly, that's what we needed. I'm doing fine. I'm actually excited for her grandfather because I know where he is. I know who he's with, and there's no better place he could be. But the family is struggling a little bit, and having Jesus with us and being there for us, and our rock literally is what's getting us through it. So he did that for me. He can do so much more for you. I don't mean to go depressing, right? But I just want you guys to know what's going on. So if you haven't opened your mind to it or open your heart to it, please just give him a shot. You will not be disappointed. So that's my little preacher moment. Bergy is waiting on us. Okay, he just texted me again. So we're gonna jump into it with Bergy Bowsmith. We're gonna talk all bows, just just a nice little BS session, kind of maybe going in depth on some bow technology, and we'll see where it goes. Let's jump in. We got the bow wizard, the bow man, the Bergy Bowsmith up here in the house tonight. As you guys know, Bergy's been a good buddy of mine for what has it been, dude? Like a year and a half, or something like that.
I think it's going on a year and a half, maybe two.
Okay.
It's been a while. It's been a
Yeah, I
while.
was gonna say I don't really keep up with stuff like that, but dude, you are an absolute wizard with these bows, and you have blown my brain up a million times when we're talking on the phone, and you're telling me all this different stuff about them, and I'm just like, I can audibly hear my brain go, and I'm just like, okay, Bergs. So about life, what's like? It's crazy, man. But so we've had a lot of bows come out this year with a lot of interesting technology, and you being, the bow wizard. What do you think about all this stuff? I know we're kind of just diving right into it, but like, what do you think about all this new technology that's coming out?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is good for the most part. I always tell people like, dude, nowadays it's so hard to pick a bad bow. Like
Hmm.
it just really is. And uh, it really just boils down to, what kind of features do you want? Do you want to have a bunch of speed? Do you want to have really, really smooth? Do you want carbon? Do you not want carbon? Do you are you brand loyal? What kind of grip do you like? And so in all reality, like I still stand by that fact of,
Hmm.
there's not a bad bow on the market right now. I definitely I can definitely tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there's not any bad bows on the market, but there are definitely bows that I personally wouldn't own. You know, um, and not because they're bad bows, they don't hit the certain buttons that I look for in a
Yeah.
bow and hit certain marks that I want them that I'm expecting out of a setup for me
Hmm.
personally, right? Um but I definitely think a lot of these systems are good. I like the way that the industry is going to more tunability features. Um, but I definitely think there are also some downsides to tunability features as well. It gives more control to the end user, and if you're not necessarily experienced in how a bow operates and works, you could end up, running yourself down a rabbit hole and creating bigger problems. But on the flip side of the coin, it makes it faster for me to fix it.
Yeah.
So um I'm for it either way. I always tell people, I I want everybody to, learn how to work on their own bows. Like, yeah, it is part of how I make an income, but it's not my sole source of income
Yeah.
either. And so um either way, I think it's a good thing. And I think there's a lot of good, cool technology out right now.
Yeah. I mean, so to me, the most, I guess, innovative thing that I've seen, aside from like, the basic bridge lock systems and the Picatinny stuff and all of that, was when Bowtech came out with their cam adjustment.
Hmm.
And I remember hearing about some other brands that we all know of Athens that got, taken down basically because they pretty much copied it, supposedly. But I'm glad to start seeing people taking what Bowtech did and kind of adapting it to their own thing. Like Darton's got the limb adjustment. I know Matthews now has, I forget what it's called, but they've got that whole cam
Yeah,
adjustment.
limb shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, I mean, even smaller companies like Obsession, they're trying to do it. Now, I don't know what's going on with that because that was supposed to come out a year ago, but
Right.
I'm waiting to
I
see it.
mean, and Elite has set and PSE has Easy 220. Hoyt is the only one that doesn't have a quick adjust shim system.
Hmm.
But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing either. There's a lot of intricacies, and I'm no engineer by any
Yeah.
means. I'm just a bow technician. But there's a lot of intricacies that you get into when you start developing a system that is either going to shift that cam left and right, or in Matthew's case, shifting a limb left and right, with like side load pressures and how all those pressures transfer through the whole system.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of intricacies that go along with that, and that's why I think we've seen it take so long for a lot of these other companies to jump on board with it, because they want to make sure it works,
Hmm.
and they want to make sure it works well.
Yeah.
And all of the companies kind of steal a little bit from each other, right? uh,
Mhm.
they they all kind of share some features of other things. Like a big thing this year that I noticed right off the bat. I'm gonna throw some brands out, but like Elite dropped their bows, and then Hoyt dropped their bows, and everybody that I saw at least was kind of like, "Oh my God, there's no major change from last year's bow."
Hmm.
And me as a bow technician, I looked at it and I'm like, "Dude, it's a completely new cam system
Yeah.
on both bows."
Yeah.
Both bows went from a three-piece, like a three-track cam system, to five-piece systems with floating yokes. I'm like, this is a huge improvement.
Yeah.
One of the big problems and the biggest one of the biggest kickbacks I get on any Elite or Hoyt that I tune is people talking about center shot, and that's one of the biggest issue. It was so prevalent that I actually made a YouTube video on it,
I
because
remember it.
um, it was such a common question about people having problems with their center shot. And part of that center shot issue that they were having is because it was a three-track cam system.
Mhm.
You have all of this force. You have two cables, and then you have your cable guard, and all that force on that opposite side is pulling across, and so you have some degree of cam lean,
Yeah.
and trying to get that bow to not have cam lean and shoot down the middle. It was a lot easier for people to just run them outside of center, and I wasn't running them outside of center. And people are like, "Dude, how are you doing this?" And uh, it was very simple. And once I started explaining it to people and people were doing it, then they were having a lot more forgiveness and consistency. Now there were workarounds for it. There's workarounds for every bow. Yeah, I can set a bow up at a 1 inch center shot and make it shoot a bullet hole. It just doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's correct. Not all bullet holes are the same. And so when I looked at these Elites and Hoyts, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a huge upgrade, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I shot three tracks for a long time. I was an Elite guy for a long time. And they did good for me, and they shot well, and they were forgiving. But preferably, I don't like a three track if I can help it.
Yeah.
The only reason I really put up with the three track cam system is because I liked a lot of the other stuff that Elite was doing, and so I put up with it for other reasons.
Yeah.
But these new cam systems with these floating yoke systems are going to be way more forgiving for people. They're going to tune up way easier than these older three track cam systems, and I think that's a step in the right direction. But a lot of people were disappointed in that, and I saw it as a big opening for companies to start innovating again.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, what we're going to see over the next 5 years is the push to make bows quieter,
Hmm.
and a push to make things more forgiving, and lastly, more tunability.
Yeah.
I think those are the three things that we're gonna see getting pushed in the next handful of years. I don't think speed is going to be a big factor in a lot of those. I mean, if we look at it, all these bows that are focused on speed don't sell. I mean,
Yeah. Because they
uh,
draw like crap.
yeah, I mean they just don't sell because yeah, they're chasing that speed number, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of other factors that people want considered, right?
Yeah.
I mean, APA, they make probably the fastest bow on the market. I don't think I've worked on one in like since I lived in Texas. I mean, which was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so APA Expedition makes a really fast bow. Not a ton of people shoot one. My wife shoots one, but and I shot one for a while, but you don't see a lot of them.
Mhm.
Another one that's a big speed freak is Obsession,
Mhm.
and we don't see a ton of those floating around anymore either.
I
And
had
so
one, and it was stout. I mean, it really took me probably a month or two to get used to it, and then I sold it and got the bear. And the
mhm,
bear is like butter now. So it's
right.
I know what you're saying. It is kind of crazy because I bounce back and forth, like caring about speed, not caring about speed, and I've kind of landed in the middle where it's like, all right, I want something like this, right?
Mhm,
Or any bow that's similar. Because I
right.
mean, I'm shooting two. I think the last time I saw it on the chrono, it was like 280, and that's
Right.
that's plenty fast for me, right?
Yeah,
So
and like if you were to ask me about a bear, I would say that they don't draw very smooth,
yeah,
from in my
some
opinion.
don't, some don't.
Some of them don't.
Yeah,
And um but compared to an Obsession
no,
or
it's
an
yeah,
Expedition, they definitely draw smoother,
yeah.
So it's all give and take, and I think all the bows right now are pretty good on hand shock, are pretty good on vibration, are pretty good on noise. Anybody that
Mhm.
says a bow has hand shock, I urge you to go shoot like a Bear Whitetail 2 and then come back and then tell
Yeah,
me that this bow has hand shock, because none of the new bows have hand shock. They just
yeah.
don't. They just don't.
It really has come a long, long way, and I feel like people are just super picky these days.
In a short amount of time. Like if we
Yeah,
really think about it, in a very, very, very short amount of time, we have come a very long ways in the archery world. And it's incredible to see it because you don't see innovations like this quickly,
yeah.
in other industries. And it has gone exponential. I mean, look, I think 10 years ago, maybe it was 10 or I think 10 years ago, roughly, the Halon came out from Matthews, which was
Yeah.
the first time that they went away from basically a single cam system. And that was only a decade ago. Dude, I was in
Wow.
high school. I was in high school a
Yeah.
decade ago. Yeah, I was graduating high school. And so like if you really think about it, like, dude, look how far we've come just in a decade from the
Yeah.
Halon to now. It's insane. There's a lot of innovation.
Well, then you've got like companies like Prime, which I knew about that new bow months before it came out, and I hadn't seen it. So one of my, I guess we could call them sources, was like, dude, you need to see this new Prime. He's like, when you see it, it's gonna take you a minute to get used to it. And then I saw a picture floating around. I'm like, dude, that might be the coolest bow I've ever seen. Like it
Mhm.
honestly, and on YouTube, I commented on a video and everyone's like, it's super ugly. It's this. I'm like, dude, that's your opinion. That's fine. So I love archery because we all have different opinions, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but what they're trying to do is like, I think to me that's one of the most innovative bows I've seen this year because it's both aluminum and carbon. I just wish they made it in a 32 because I
Right.
don't like
Which
34s.
they likely will next
Yeah,
year. The thing with the archery industry is everybody's like innovate, 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 and then somebody innovates and they're like, I don't
yeah,
like it. It's like, but you can't have your cake and eat it too.
yep,
Like lesser of two evils here. That's why there's multiple bow manufacturers. Pick the
yeah,
one that you want and shoot it. Like you don't got to complain on social media. Everybody wants innovation, 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 and then somebody comes out and innovates, and then you're like, I don't
yeah.
like it. It's like, come on, man. Like,
Well, and it's the little stuff too, because like I did the podcast with Evan from Hoyt a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if I already said that or not, but that was probably the longest episode I've ever done. It was 2 hours of,
mhm,
I believe half of it was talking strictly the new bows, the other half was talking about a season, and it got me thinking, that Hoyt has done some very big things. Like I really love how they have five different mods now for all the draw lengths,
mhm,
and you can get specific quarter-inch draw lengths. I think
right,
every single manufacturer needs to do that personally.
right, yeah,
And
yeah,
then they've got those little stubs on the bottom cam, and I think it's on the top cam too. And they have the ghost sticks, like all the things that they're doing. It's little things that they don't have to spend thousands of dollars on some new cool flashy bow that maybe gets another foot per second and draws like stupid stiff. But they're doing little things to be like, all right, when you're at tack, you can put the bow down on the go sticks in that little bump and you're not tearing your cam up and you don't have to worry about anything. Stuff like that I like, because it's like, okay, you've got the bow, maxed out to basically what we can get to right now. And you're adding little things for more comfortability. The only thing is, can we go any faster, do you think? Or are we pretty much peaked out?
I think I know that we can go faster. I just don't think we can go faster and keep it as smooth as we are right now. Um, I'll say, and a lot of people might think I'm crazy. I'm shooting 70% let off, dude. Like, I and
God, okay, Bomar. Damn.
so I'm shooting 70% let off, and I was shooting 75% let off on my aluminum bow, which was at 78 pounds. And I can confidently say that if I tried to shoot 70% let off 5 years ago, no way, bro. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance was I shooting 75%. Not that I couldn't, I just couldn't do it consistently.
Yeah.
With these new bows, dude, I can shoot 70% let off all day. Like literally all day. I was doing some tests with my 2025 bow a couple days ago at like long distance. And when I'm saying long distance, I'm talking like 100, 120 yards, where I'd come back to full draw and I'd set a timer and I would hold at full draw for a minute and 30 seconds. And then I would start my shot. And I was still dropping bombs at 100 yards in like pie plate groups at 70% let off, which on my bow, I dropped poundage this year from last year. And I'm getting actually faster speeds than I was getting with my old bow with the same arrow. Um, I'm holding like 22 and a quarter pounds at full draw, and I'm able to easily hold my bow for a minute and 30 seconds and then execute a good shot at 100
Yeah.
yards. So if you were to ask me to do that, 5 years ago, no chance, no
Yeah.
chance. But I think the way that we're moving in the industry, everything's just getting smoother, more forgiving, easier to hold back at full draw, draw weights feel like less weight than they used to, it's just everything is getting more smooth and streamlined. And I like that a lot.
Yeah. So what's your one thing I want to pick your brain on is like the pricing of these bows these days? Because I kind of have always been the guy to say like, look, if you want to spend $2,000 on a carbon bow that's going to shoot, at blistering speeds and whatever, that's fine. But you can also spend $600 like I did on a bow that has the same exact cams as the company's flagship, and you're shooting the same speeds, and you're
Right.
saving a ton of money. I mean, do you think more bow companies are going to start taking advantage of like certain cam systems that they have and putting them on budget bows, or are we going to just see them continually keep it pretty much flagship only? Gets like with Bear, they use the EKO cam for their flagship and then one of their budget bows. I know PSE
Right.
has what, the EC2.
Yeah, they have the E2, EC2, S2, M2,
Okay, so they have a
SE.
ton of different
They have a
cams.
lot of different cams. Now I'll be the first one to say I am shooting a carbon bow
Yeah.
this year. And
What
if you
is
were to
it?
ask me, it's the Mach 33.
Very nice.
And it's already set up. It's shooting great.
It's freaking gorgeous. You sent me photos of it, like 10
Yeah,
of them at 1 a.m. I'm like, Berkey, I'm trying to sleep, dude.
yeah,
What?
it's a sweet looking rig.
It is.
I think there's personally, and I have no merit to this, so everybody listening, like, don't take this as gospel. But I think in like the next 5 years, we're gonna start seeing some companies, not all, are gonna start going consumer direct at some point. Um, because I mean, Darton's already doing it.
Yeah.
Expedition. There's some companies out there that are already doing it. But I think there's a large push, especially in some of these more rural areas. I work on some guys' bows that they don't live. They're 2 hours from the nearest bow shop. Out west. When you go out west, there it's not uncommon for you to have to go 2 hours. My buddy Gavin, He's one of the most knowledgeable bow hunters I know.
Yeah.
And I think he was telling me that the closest shop to him is like an hour and 30 minutes, and he has to go across state lines into another state to get to that
Wow.
shop, you know, and that's why he bought his own press and started
Yeah.
working on his own stuff, you know. And so I do think that we're going to see, if people really want to start tapping into these markets, if these companies really start wanting to tap into these markets and keep prices where they're at, they're going to have to do something different,
Yeah.
because I mean, it costs money to ship bows to shops. It costs money to, you know, develop these new risers and cams and all this other stuff. So I do think that the price is going to keep going in a trend that we're seeing it going, especially if tariffs get put in place. However, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, I've always been of the mindset, you know, let's relate it down to like small dollar stuff. You know, if somebody goes, "Hey, what's the best slider site for 200 bucks?" Right? I can give you an option for 200 bucks, or I can tell you to wait 2 more weeks, save up 100 extra dollars, and you can get a far better site. You know,
Yeah.
why can people not do the same thing with bows? You know, if it's something that you're truly passionate about and you really love, why not just save up the money and get the one that you want,
Yeah.
even if it
I mean, that's
is
what I'm
more
doing.
expensive?
Yeah.
Um, if you were to ask me last year, dude, I tell people all the time, like, I have no reason to shoot a carbon bow. I absolutely no reason. I've never had a complaint in cold weather with my aluminum risers. I've never had a problem not shooting a carbon bow.
Yeah.
Um, however, an opportunity arose. I had the funds and I bought a carbon bow because it had features outside of being carbon that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I bought it, you know. It had nothing to do with it being a carbon bow. If the Mach 33 was the same exact spec from PSE and was an aluminum bow, I would have bought the aluminum version. I
Yeah.
would have, instead of the carbon version. I don't need a carbon version, but they offered it in carbon, so
So
and
why
they didn't
not?
have it, and they didn't have it in an aluminum, so I
Yeah.
bought it in carbon. Um, and so that's kind of like where I'm at when it comes to
Mm.
like pricing on this stuff. I do think that the trend is going to continue the way it is. But I mean, even look at my bow. I spent 2 grand on a carbon bow, and immediately before I even shot it, I took the whole thing apart and swapped all the bolts to titanium. That was another $200. You know, I swapped the string stop. I swapped the draw stops. I took the Picatinny mount off. I took the core mount off. Like all of that stuff added up to like an extra $500 of stuff that I put on top of this carbon boat before I even set it up to shoot it. And then I immediately took the stock strings off and put unbound strings on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, when it was all said and done, I had like 3,000 or like probably like 2,700 bucks into this thing before I even put my sight rest quiver on it, you
Yeah.
know. And I do that on every single bow that I own,
Hmm.
you know, but I care about my bow and I use it as a tool and I tend to keep them for longer periods of time. So to me, I see a benefit in that.
Yeah.
For a guy
It's
that
an
doesn't keep
investment.
their bow for, you know, more than 6, 8 months, a year, I don't recommend that you swap everything over to titanium because
Yeah.
you're not going to see the benefits. The next owner is going to see the benefits,
Yeah.
but
Not you.
you aren't. You
Yeah.
know, I keep my bows on average for anywhere from 4 to 5 years.
Uh,
Um, so for me, titanium kit is a value item for me. So I don't know. That's how I. That's how. Oh, you still got me.
yeah. It's kind of cutting out
You
a
still
little
got
bit.
me.
Oh, there we go. Okay, you're back.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, that's how I view it. You know, is if it's important to you, you'll spend the money on it. You know, I know
Yeah.
guys every year that buy $70,000 trucks. That's not important to me, so I don't buy a $70,000 truck. You know, um, but to some people, that's more important than buying a $3,000 bow, and
Yeah.
to me, it's not. So
I mean, there's some weight to what you said because, like, I'm planning on. I mean, I love my bear. Don't get me wrong, right? But there's been some things I've learned about other companies, and I'm planning on after this season and after I get it, because I'm not saying I'm going to get a new one next year, right? Like I
Mhm.
do want to keep this bow for a while, but I am planning on putting money away whenever I'm able to get probably like a Lift X or a Lift, just because. Then the sole reason for why I want to do that is I'm trying to do the same thing you're doing. I want a bow that's going to last me 4 or 5 years, 10
Right.
years, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I know, Matthews is the only one that makes the replacement parts for all their bows and keeps on doing it even when the bow's not on the market anymore. And for me,
Right.
that's like, okay, well, say I get a Lift in a year or two, or a Lift X or whatever, and I go to Colorado and I'm hunting muleys, and I trip or drop my bow or something, and like the cam splits in half. Well, the bow's not on the market anymore, but I can call Matthews or order one from Matthews, get it shipped to me, have it swapped, everything's fine. I don't
Right.
know of any other bow company that really, 5, 10 years down the line is going to be able to do that. So I had that kind of realization the other day where it's like, every time I think, okay, what new bow, if I decided to try and make the effort, what I want, and I always go back to that one. Doesn't mean I think that Matthews is better than everybody. It's little things that they do that I like more, but
Right.
it's just something people don't think about. I mean, I know, dude. One of my good buddies has a Lift. Okay, awesome bow. He's had it for God since like July, and he loves it. And
Mhm.
the shop near us was running a deal on the Dart and Sequel 31, and he went and bought it. So now he's got two
Right.
bows. And I'm just like, well, why'd you do that? He's like, well, dude, I needed a backup just in case. I'm like, okay. And those are the two bows he shot when I went with him to get his new bow. And so it's
Right.
like you can have multiple different, especially since you're not tied down to one specific company. I'm not tied down to one specific company. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because like we can give our full opinions, and it's not gonna hurt anything, because like you said, there's not a bad bow out there. There's just little things these companies are doing that might be better in one way, but then the other company's doing something better than them in another way. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just wondering what the next big thing is going to be, right? Like, what's the next big, I guess, innovative thing that we could even do? Like, where do we go?
I it's got to be something to do with making bows quieter, in my opinion, and they're
Yeah.
already really quiet.
Yeah.
Um, and like back to your point with like Matthews, like yeah, Matthews does keep parts on hand. A lot of bow companies, at least most of them, are limited lifetime warranty, so like they'll keep parts on hand for 5 or 10 years, um, and then after that, you're kind of SOL. I tend to get ahead of the game, usually like probably in like a year or two. I'll order limbs for my bow, whether I need them or not.
Yeah.
And I'll order an extra set of cams for my bow, whether I need them or not,
Yeah.
um, just to have them, um, in case something happens, because I don't see myself getting rid of this bow for quite a while. And, a lot of people think I work with PSE or that I'm a PSE fanboy, and that's not the case. I I truly just shoot them the best
Yeah.
currently. 5 years from now, I might be shooting a Hoyt. 5 years from now, I might be shooting a Matthews for all I know. I mean, I
Five
shot a
years from now, you could be
Matthews.
shooting a bear. I mean,
Yeah, I could be shooting XYZ brand.
yeah.
I could be shooting anything. Um, I just shoot what is best for me at the time,
Mhm.
and right now it's PSE. And for the foreseeable future, it will likely be PSE, just because there's a lot of stuff that PSE is doing that I really believe in, and I can see it,
Yeah.
and it's tangible. Like I can touch it, I can feel it, and I know that it is what they say it is.
Mhm.
And so for me, that's why I shoot them. And it's repeatable. It's across the board. I can see it from bow to bow to bow that I work on, that it is the same all the way across. Um, but yeah, I don't know what the next big innovation would be. I guess if I knew, I should probably be an engineer, but uh, I don't know. I could tell
Yeah.
you what I want to see. I want to see 7-inch brace heights come back as like a
Be nice.
staple. I want to see 7-inch brace heights. That's another reason I picked PSE, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of these bows, if you look on a spreadsheet of like the top 10 selling bows, Matthews, Hoyt, Elite, PSE, and whatever other brand, Bear, whatever.
Mhm.
All the bows, when you look at them on a spreadsheet, they're all going to be roughly within about 5 feet per second of each other. PSE is the only one consistently doing it at like 3/4 of an inch higher brace height than everybody else.
Mm.
So like my PSE IBO is 345, 343, whatever,
Jesus.
and it's or no, it's 335
Yeah.
or
Okay.
something like that.
I would
335.
say I thought it was in the 330s.
Yeah, 335, but at a 6 7/8 brace height. Okay. Now look at Matthews, for example. They're hitting 343 or 345 at a 6 inch brace height, right?
Mhm.
Well, that 7/8 of brace height, if I put that into my PSE, it's the same speed.
Yeah.
It's the same speed as the Matthews, if not a little faster than the
So
Matthews. But with the more brace height, I'm getting more forgiveness. I'm getting more stability at full draw. I'm getting all kinds of other things that I value as a consumer
yeah,
more than the speed. And I can fix the speed by lowering my let off because the cam system is so smooth.
yeah,
And I switched from the high let off mods instantly to the FL mods with PSE, which are the 65 to 75% let off mods. And I instantly I gained 9 feet per second. Like just instantly, just switching the mods from HL to FL mods, I gained 9 feet per second.
holy crap.
So that put me from whatever I was shooting to 9 feet per second faster.
Yeah,
I don't have that option with the Matthews unless I get low let off mods, but it might not feel the same or as smooth as my PSE does.
yeah,
So that's another reason that I lean that way, right? And Matthews has some features that I really like too. There's a lot of features on Matthews that I really do like. One of them is not their grip. I do not like their grip.
I don't know why
However,
everyone hates it. I shot a lift. I didn't mind it. It
I
wasn't
just
bad.
it's not a bad grip.
Yeah.
I'm just not very repeatable with it. Is
Okay.
is my problem. I think it's not a terrible grip. I think there's worse on the market, but I'm just not
There
very
definitely is.
repeatable with it. Um, but like their limit, like Matthews, dude, they're killing it on silence. Like, dude,
Mhm.
those bows are quiet. They are
Yeah.
very, very quiet. They tune super easy. They shoot well, they hold well. They're killing it when it comes to that stuff. But when it comes to misses at longer distances, I have fewer mistakes out of my PSE than I would out of a Matthews, just for me,
Yeah.
and so I attribute that to PSE's full draw stability and their cam system and the
Yeah.
modularity of their system. And so, like we were talking about in the beginning, it just comes down to, what do you want out of a
Yeah.
bow and what do you value, and that's how you should purchase a bow, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's why I always tell people, like, go into a shop and shoot them all with your eyes closed, and the one that works for you, you'll know like right
Yeah.
away,
I
for
know a
sure.
certain somebody who did that, and I watched that video and I was like, yeah, I mean, if you don't know what you're shooting, you're not biased to it. Now, granted, you shoot enough of them, you can hold the grip and be like, okay, I know what this is, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it is true. I mean, I I think in the past year I've shot a single cam bear, an obsession, the bow that I have now, an Alaskan XT, the Persist, one or two, no, one Hoyt, a Lift, a Darton, PSE. I mean, I've basically shot it. The only thing I haven't shot is an Elite and a Bowtech. And actually, it's not true. I did shoot a Bowtech as well.
Hmm.
And if I wasn't so like gung ho for bear at the time, I would have been able to tell you that they all felt relatively the same. There were certain little
Right.
things. Like I felt like the Darton was more stable and it drew smoother. Felt like the Bear was pretty much the same way. The Matthews, the only thing about the Matthews I didn't like is when I drew it back, I like to feel it drop into the valley. I
Hmm.
did not feel that. I drew it all the way back and I'm sitting there and I'm like kind of tugging on it, thinking maybe the draw length's too long. And it wasn't. It
Right.
was perfectly fine. It just sat there, which, okay, you can get used to that.
See, and I don't like them to dump into the back wall. I hate that.
See, I only
Yeah.
like it because it lets me know that I am fully back. It's kind of just like a mental thing, like, okay, draw back,
Right.
draw back, anchor. All right, I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And see, for
So,
me, I don't like it to dump into the back wall because typically if it dumps into the back wall,
mhm.
letting down is super aggressive. Like
Yeah,
like super aggressive because like you're like trying to push it forward and then all of a sudden it wants to go all at once and then you like almost have to catch it and then
yep.
try to slowly let it down.
Is
So
that a
when
let off thing or is that a
yeah,
cue thing?
it's a let off thing.
Okay.
It's all in how it dumps into that valley.
Yeah.
Um, so like my PSE, mine it's like steady, 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 and then it just kind of rolls into that back wall, and
Mm.
you can feel it start to let off, but it doesn't go like up, 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 dump off, and then you're in the back
Yeah.
wall. It's like pretty gradual and consistent the whole way,
Mhm.
especially at 70%. And so for me, I really like that.
Yeah.
Because if I have like out west, dude, there's times where I have to draw, let down, draw, let down, draw, let down. And I want to be able to do that smoothly
Yeah.
and slow. And so for me, I really like that. Like when I shot elites, elites were known for dumping into that back wall, like just a rock solid back wall. And
Yeah.
I shot elite for a long time, but when I got to full draw, you bet your ass I was not letting that thing down.
Yep.
Because if
That's
I
kind
had
of
to
how
let it
mine is.
down, like if I had to let it down, it's that arrow is gonna bounce all over the place because I'm
Yep.
gonna have to okay, come on, come on, come on, and then all of a sudden it starts to go, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to catch it, and it's just not smooth on the letdown.
Well, see,
Um,
that's why when I send my bow to you, I was going to ask you to put it on 80% for me, even though I
uh-huh,
could do it myself. Like, I've been shooting with it all year like that. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is till season's over. Because,
right,
dude, there's been times, because when I get up in the stand, I always draw back just to check clearance. Even in a trip and hunting all year, right? I
hmm,
still do it just to make sure that I'm good. And then when I go to let it down, that's the one thing about this bow that I do not like. And I know it's just a let off. I'm on 85%, but I'm at full draw. And then I kind of lean back and I normally am used to it just sort of snapping forward and then I can catch it or do it slow or whatever I need to do. This one, I'm like kind of having to almost nudge it. And
right,
I'm like,
yep.
dude, am I going to derail this thing? Like, what is happening? And then it goes. So that's been a big thing. And I mean, Bomar talked about the let off stuff, and I didn't believe him at the time, because he was saying, oh, if you're shooting 85%, you need to go down to 80, you need to do 75, whatever. And I'm like, bro, I'm not built like a gorilla like you are, right? Like I can't hold back 75% comfortably
Right.
at the weight that I want to shoot. But I mean, 80% I feel like is kind of a happy medium for just an average person because that's all I
Yeah.
shot for 2 years. So
And see, like for me, if I try to shoot 80, 85%, my pin float is garbage, dude. It's so
really,
bad. Yeah, my pin float is so bad at 80%. And so like I prefer to shoot as low as I can get away with.
yeah,
Like as low of let off as I can get away with. If that's 65%, then so be it. Right now it's 70% and my pin float is great. I'm kind of still trying to decide if I'm going to shoot 60 or if I'm going to shoot 70% or 75%. But I'm kind of leaning towards 70%. My bow's on 70 right now, but
mhm,
I'll flip flop throughout the spring and decide where I want to be. But it's definitely going to be under 80%. Eh, and that's just a personal thing for me.
yeah.
And even though I'm shooting a carbon bow, my bow still weighs 9 pounds.
Yeah.
My bow is still heavy, and my aluminum bow weighed like 9.6. So like I only lost like half a pound going to a carbon bow.
So
Um,
I want to talk to you about that real quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's something I thought of earlier and I don't want to lose it. So all these bows, like I'll use the lift as an example, or honestly, take the lift out of it. My bow is supposedly rated to be 3.8 pounds,
mhm,
right? It's probably not. It's probably like 4.1. But
right.
carbon, if I understand it right, when it first started kind of hitting the market, it was always saying, "Oh, this super light bow, and it's quiet, and it won't get cold." Well, we're kind of past that now. So, like, what is the benefit to somebody now who wants a carbon bow compared to an aluminum bow that weighs less, and you can just put a grip on there, and it's not going to be cold? I mean, like,
I th I think the big thing that I like about the carbon now, going from an aluminum to now I have my own carbon,
yeah,
is I can put the weight where I want it. So yeah, my bow is still gonna weigh the same, but I can put that weight where I want it, you
Yeah.
know, and that's a bigger thing for me than anything is being able to put that weight where I want it instead of like, okay, I have a 4.5 pound bow, but it's the whole bow. Well, now I have a 3.8 pound bow, and now to get to 9 pounds, I can keep that weight where I want it, and
Hmm.
I can get away with less weight in areas that I had to have more weight on my aluminum bow to make it hold the same as my aluminum bow. So for me, I really do like that. But one thing that I've already noticed with the carbon that it's going to take me a little while to get used to is in the wind, dude. Like my
Hmm.
aluminum bow was way better in the wind than my
Yeah.
carbon bow. So at least right now, you know, I'm only like 3 weeks into owning a carbon bow for myself and, you know, shooting with it in the wind. So I will get used to it, but it is different than an aluminum. And like with a PSE, that riser, that carbon riser is like pretty solid other than
Yeah.
the two large cutouts. But on my aluminum bow, there's all these cutouts all the way down to the handle and then more cutouts under it. So when that wind hits it, I feel like that wind kind of went through my riser, and now it's kind of smacking my riser, and
Yeah.
so it takes me just a little bit longer to get back on target when the wind blows me off than it did with my aluminum bow. um, so it's just little nuances, right? And I always tell people like, dude, if you want a carbon bow, buy a carbon bow, you know, if if that's what's in your budget and
Yeah.
that's what you want. But most of the people that are shooting carbon bows probably don't need a carbon bow.
It's the hype.
They make these really, really cool things. It's called gloves. And you put those on when things are cold. And that's how I used to carry my aluminum bow into the woods, is with a
Uh,
pair of gloves on.
yeah.
Because yeah, it gets cold. Of course it gets cold. It's aluminum. But they make these cool things. They're called gloves. And you
Yeah.
put
And
them
if your
on
hands are
and
cold, then do what I did and put grip tape on it. And it's really
right.
not cold. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
and even if it is cold, you're only going to be holding your bow and at full draw for maybe 5, 10 minutes. Like,
Hmm.
suck it up, dude. Like, suck it up. You're hunting. It's cold. It's going to be
Yeah.
cold. You know,
Not supposed to
Eh,
be
just
easy.
just hold on to it and deal with the suck of it being cold for the 2 minutes, and then you know put your glove back on. You
Yep.
know, and
Or shoot
so
with a glove. I mean, that's what
yeah,
I
or
do.
shoot with a glove, you know, do whatever you got to do, but you don't need a carbon bow just because it's cold or because
Yeah.
it's lighter, you know. um I trekked around Idaho for 10 days with an aluminum bow, and it weighed 10 pounds, and I was packing miles into the backcountry, you know. Yeah, I could have probably shaved some weight or lengthened some of my bars to shave some weight, but it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I just
Yeah.
embraced the suck. Bow hunting sucks sometimes, and you just put up with it to shoot what you want to shoot, you know?
You're not like some of these
Um,
mobile guys that get
oh,
mad when
I'm
they're
very mobile. I'm
no,
very mobile when it
you
comes
are,
to
but the
whitetail.
difference is you're not getting mad about 0.5 ounces on your setup when
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you don't even feel the difference.
I'm a function over weight type of guy. Everything that I do is function based.
Yeah.
Like if something functions better for me, I'm gonna use it, you know. I switched platforms, my saddle platform this year. My old platform, there was nothing wrong with it.
Hmm.
It just didn't pack very well for me in my pack,
Yeah.
and it pissed me off every time I had to pack it. I was like, god, this sucks, you know. Like the platform, it works great, it's a
Yeah.
great platform, but it just sucked to pack in my backpack. And so I called a buddy of mine who's a big saddle hunter, and he has like 7 platforms. And I was like, hey, dude, do you have XYZ platform? And he's like, yeah, I got one. I said, can I borrow it? He's like, yeah, I'll mail it to you tomorrow. Mailed it to me. I tested it out on one hunt, bought one, you know, because it packed better for me.
Yeah.
I only saved like a quarter of a pound, but it packed better for me and it was more functional for how I wanted to hunt. So I bought it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get caught up in chasing ounces, you know, instead of like, hey, maybe let's look at like what really works for you, you know.
Hmm.
And that's a big thing. For me. Like, I don't care what anything weighs. I don't care how fast my bow shoots. I don't care I don't care what weight arrow I shoot, as long as it fits the parameters of what I want it to do and it meets my needs. I don't care. I do not. I could. The only reason I even chronographed my bow is because I knew when I made a post about my bow, people were going to want to know how fast it was.
Yep.
I didn't care how fast it was, but I knew it was going to be a question and a topic of conversation, so I
Yeah.
chronoed it. I could care less how fast it is. My bow could shoot 220 feet per second, and I wouldn't care.
Your method of how you do this, because I remember the first time you told me, still to this day blows my mind. Because I
Right.
like having, my arrows at a certain weight. I'll shave, a little, I guess, quarter of an inch off the tip of the arrow to get to the weight that I want, or I'll change vanes or I'll do whatever. Right. And
Hmm.
when you told me that you just build a set of arrows and whatever they weigh is what they weigh, and then you shoot it and that's it. As long as they fly right, you're good. I'm like, that sounds so much less complicated. Like,
Yeah, I
it
think a
sounds
lot of
so much
people
less
like to
stressful.
overcomplicate. I think a lot of people really like to overcomplicate. Like, yeah, I'm always testing stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm about to put a new rest on my bow in like 2 weeks, and I'm
You're
gonna
running
build
that
a
trophy ridge, ain't you?
no, no, but I'm about to put a new rest on my bow, not because there's anything seriously wrong with my current rest, but there
Yeah.
are some things about my Hamsky that I don't necessarily like. And so for me, I'm going to try something else and see if it works better. If it works better, great. If it doesn't, I'll put the Hamsky back on and we'll keep on trucking.
What rest are you putting on?
I'm putting on the AAE Prophecy QD, the quick disconnect.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
shoot a hamster. That's why I was wondering because mine, I'll probably touch on a little later. I like it. There's a couple little things I would change, but I mean, it's been working great,
The
but
main thing I don't like about my Hamsky is so my Hamsky's been on my XF33 for 2 years, hasn't been taken off. I
Mhm.
took it off after this season to put it on my Mach 33, and the mounting screws in the back of the core mount rusted. I had to drill them out.
Really?
Like, yeah, they were rusted so bad I couldn't even break them loose with heat. And I had to drill them out. Luckily, I have another bracket, so it wasn't a huge deal. I put another bracket back on it, mounted it on my bow, but it was because that Hamsky was wedged right up against my aluminum riser, and any bit of rain that I hunted in sat in there and rusted the bolts out.
Hmm.
The other thing with Hamskys that kind of irk me, it's not a huge deal once your bow is finished and finally set up, but when you're trying to get it set up, sometimes you crack the micro adjust loose and you spin it like once or twice and nothing moves,
Hmm.
and then you lock it down and nothing is moved. So then you unlock it again and then you do double the next time to try to get it to move. And then you lock it down and it moved way too much. And then
Yeah.
so you're like loosen, tighten, loosen, tighten, loosen, tighten to get it where you want it to sit. And
Yeah.
then you finally lock it down and then you shoot it. And then you're like, dang, I need to make another adjustment. And then you go through the whole rigmarole again.
Yep.
So that kind of irks me in initial setup, but after it's set up, it's not a problem. Um, but yeah, there's just I also haven't ran a cable driven rest in probably a decade,
Oh,
and there's a lot of new things that have happened with cable driven rests, and so I want to give another cable driven rest a try.
yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a try. Um, but I'm always tinkering with stuff. But at the end of the day, like I don't really care what I shoot as long as it does what I want it to do. It could
Yeah.
weigh 30 pounds. My bow could weigh 30 pounds, but if it holds how I want and it shoots how I want, I'm going to hunt with it. It's just obviously 30 pounds is a little excessive,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah. A little.
um, you know, when it comes to like arrow building, I think a lot of people just overthink that stuff, dude. Like it's not that serious. It really isn't.
Yeah.
I trimmed my arrows this year from last year. And ended up cutting them a little too short. Like my broadhead sits over my shelf.
I mean, that's what mine does.
Yeah, but mine's like over my shelf. Like it's in the middle of my shelf. My broadhead is like in the middle
I
of my
need to check
shelf.
mine. Maybe my arrows are too short because I
Mine,
feel like
mine
mine
is
does.
from the back of my sleeve to the whale tail on my Hamsky launcher is less than an eighth of an inch. So if I pull a little bit too hard into my back wall, I can pull my shaft up onto my launcher arm. Um, which I've tested it in
Yeah.
a real shooting situation. I'll never be able to pull hard enough to pull it up on there,
Yeah.
but it's that close. Like it's that close that I could pull it up onto my launcher if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't pull that hard enough to do it in a real shooting situation, so I'm not too worried about it right now. Um, I am probably going to build another dozen arrows and make them about an eighth inch longer though.
Yeah.
and but like the arrow weight, all that stuff, none of that stuff matters to me. Like, and I don't care what anybody shoot. I have people ask me all the time, well, what weight arrow should I shoot? I don't care. Shoot whatever you want.
That used to
You
be
know,
me.
yeah, you want to shoot 400 grains at an elk? Go for it.
Yeah.
Like, as long as your arrow is flying perfectly true, you will have no problems. Now, if you got a 16th of an inch knock right tear, now you might have problems, you
Mhm.
know. But if you don't have any tears and it's shooting a perfect bullet hole, I don't care what weight you shoot. Shoot
Yeah.
400 grains, shoot 480 grains, shoot whatever, shoot 700 grains. I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as it's flying perfectly, you're going to get the most penetration. And I think that's where a lot of people like get caught up, because there's a lot of conversation about arrow builds. I think it's because it's easy. It's easy to have a conversation about because that's usually the first thing as you get more into archery that you dive into doing yourself
Yeah.
is arrow
That was the
builds,
first thing I did.
and so it's always a topic of conversation. And people are like, well, will XYZ weight be enough? Dude, my wife shot her first buck with a bow this year with a 425 grain arrow, blew right through it. Like
Plenty.
right through it. I mean,
Yeah.
and she's only shooting 50 pounds, and a 25-inch draw length.
Yeah.
Um, blew clean through it. She shot a doe last year with a 480 grain arrow and didn't even get 4 inches of penetration, you know? And
What?
so it's just, dude, weird things happen when you party with a bow in your hand. It just
Yeah.
weird things happen that you just can't explain sometimes and that are not repeatable. And sometimes things happen. And last year, I'll admit, her arrow build was probably not as durable as it should have been.
Yeah.
And this year her arrow build was a lot more durable, but it weighed less.
Is she running day 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
HDs 4 millimeters. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I knew you were
Yeah.
gonna get her on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's running the full aluminum outsert system, no
Yeah.
stainless steel, no titanium, because I didn't want to sacrifice weight on her build. Honestly, I probably dive more into arrow building stuff with her build than I do my own,
Yeah.
because I'm 27.5-inch draw. I'm shooting 70 to 75 pounds, depending on my bow. My last bow, I was shooting 80 pounds or 78 pounds. I can shoot whatever I want and I'm going to
Yeah.
blow through whatever. It doesn't matter if it's 220 feet per second or 280 feet per second. I'm going to blow through it.
Yeah.
But with her build, I am a little bit more, maybe this is a little too heavy for you,
Mhm.
because as a new archer for her, in my mind, 260 feet per second and a little bit larger pin gap, not a problem for me,
Yeah.
but for her, pin gapping a larger pin gap might be a little bit more difficult in the field because she hasn't done it a lot,
Yeah.
so maybe picking up a little bit of extra speed would be good, and so there's just little nuances to her build that I definitely dive a little bit more down
Yeah.
what that final weight and spec is going to be for hers than I do mine. But do that aluminum outsert system, I was a little worried, honestly. A full aluminum system, I was a little bit worried at first. I was like, I've shot aluminum and I've bent a lot of aluminum stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of aluminum stuff. And she she missed the target at a 3D shoot, a pretty far target. So I mean, it was definitely outside of her normal wheelhouse, and she like center punched a 3-inch tree, blew right through that tree, buried it to the fletchings, and I
Good
pulled it
Lord.
out of the tree and I stuck it in my quiver so
Yeah.
that because I didn't know how. I mean, I flexed it and it flexed fine, but I didn't want her shooting it again just in case. Um, and I brought it home and I spun it on the spinner and it spun perfectly true, with a full aluminum outsert system on it.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I mean, I can definitely attest to that because, like, I'm running Victories and I'm running their full aluminum outserts. And I heard so many people say, like, oh, Victories arrows are great, but their outsert and insert systems suck. And I'm like, well, I'm going to run it anyway just to see.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Dude, I have not had a single problem. Not a
Did I ever tell
single
you
problem.
I have a buddy that shoots Victories with the aluminum outsert system,
Yeah.
and I'm not even kidding you. I watched it with my own two eyes, so I know that this is what happened. He shot a buck, went through the buck, and when it came out the other side, the fletchings must have like deflected it a little bit, and there was a log behind the buck, and that arrow hit the log like at an angle, and that arrow ricocheted off the log and came back and hit the buck a second time. And he blew through it both times.
Oh, shit.
And he shot through the deer, got a pass through, hit a
Mhm.
log, and it basically boomeranged itself back into the deer and hit the deer again in like the hind leg, and then
Yeah.
blew through it, and then went like 3 yards and like kind of just piddled off and fell. And we spun that thing, and it spun true, dude. Like it
I'm
didn't
telling you.
break, and that was an aluminum uh shock collar or whatever they
Yeah.
call it. And I was like, dude, that was kind of cool. I
I
said, I
will
don't think
tell
you could
you.
do that again, but
Yeah.
that was cool.
I will tell you that at TAC last year, when I had the kind of the ball start rolling for Victory, one of my
Hmm.
buddies was up there and he's a rep for them. And so we started talking. And, at the time I was shooting a different arrow brand, which I'll just say I was shooting Nimrod. And,
Hmm.
the sleeve system and insert system they had felt pretty solid. So I'm over there, talking with my buddy David. And I was like, so here's the thing, man. I was like, I've been a huge fan of Victory since I got into this, right? I still think they're the coolest looking arrows out there. I think they're made great. The only problem is the insert outsert system. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm hearing all this stuff. And every Victory before this that I had built always had aftermarket inserts. So I'd never
Hmm.
really tried them. And he's like, look, man, he's like, people don't really, they're not realizing it yet. He's like, yes, back a few years ago, they sucked. He's like, but they've started changing them and they're making them sturdier and stronger. I mean, I can say firmly after shooting rebar, um, hard plastic and targets, and also um, the doe that I shot this year, dude, whatever they did to change it, it's definitely made it better. And now the story you told me about your buddy, I mean, it just kind of shows it. Are there things that can happen? Yes, of course. But
Yeah.
I think they've definitely upped their game. And I mean, Victory's even got like that new HLR system that I really want to try.
Right.
So I may be running
And
that next year.
people, there's a saying in like Western hunting and backpack hunting, people pack their fears, right? So like a lot of people, they'll get to the trailhead and they got a 70-pound backpack, and you're like, dude, why do you have your whole house with you? It's because they pack their fears, right?
Yeah.
They're afraid that in the backcountry, XYZ is going to happen, so they pack it for just in case, right? People do the same thing with arrow builds, and that's how I relate it. People build for their fear, right? And I'm guilty of it. I won't build an arrow without a titanium insert.
Yeah.
I just, at least a day 6 arrow, because they offer titanium. I'm not going to build a system without titanium. It's
Yeah.
just, but for me, I want to be able to pick up my bow and go whitetail hunting in Minnesota, and then next week get in my truck, go elk hunting, and then maybe in January or whatever, go to Alaska and shoot whatever I want to shoot in Alaska. And I want to use the same arrow for 3D, whitetail, elk, mule deer, whatever I want to shoot. I want to shoot the same arrow. I don't want to change anything. I don't want to worry about
Yeah.
durability. So I use titanium.
Yeah.
But the saying still goes, people pack their fears. Like a lot of these guys are just whitetail hunters, especially in the South. You guys got tiny deer compared to my deer.
They're pretty
and
small.
and that's not talking down on your guys'
No, yeah.
deer. I
It's
mean,
just,
you guys still grow big bucks, but body wise and bone density wise, they're not near as stout and thick as our deer,
I
right?
prefer it because our antlers, when it's 100 inches, looks way bigger than when it's up north. And
Right.
so I'm cool with it.
and and some of these guys are building 650 grain arrows to shoot 110-pound deer, and it's like, you don't need that though. And they're like, yeah, but what if I hit the shoulder? Dude, you're gonna blow through it.
Yeah.
Like, shoot a 450 grain arrow, you'll blow through it unless your bow is like way out of whack.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna have problems. But then that goes back to my original point, make sure your bow is tuned,
Mhm.
And so
And send it to Bergy to get it tuned.
right.
Shameless
And
plug, bergybowsmith.com,
right.
SEBH 15 or 10 or whatever it was. I don't even remember.
Yeah. And so people just pack their fears and they
Yeah.
build for their fears, right? And so I think that plays a role in it too, and I see it all the time with people that they just build to their fears, and that's fine. I I never tell anybody ever like, "Hey, I don't think this setup is going to work for you."
Yeah.
I never tell anybody that. I just one of my customers shot a giraffe a couple months ago. I want to say it was like
Dang.
October.
Yeah.
He shot a giraffe with a bow that I built for him and arrows that we built. Ruthless Archery built them,
That dude's freaking
and
awesome, dude. I was
yeah,
so happy when he
Cage.
shouted you out on WCB. I texted you instantly. I was like, Bergy, you're famous. I was like, are you still gonna come on my podcast? Because it's not the same. But that's
Yeah,
freaking awesome, dude.
yeah.
I hope
Cage is
they
a good dude. He's
I
a
hope they reach
really
out
good
to you to
dude.
come on, man. That would be a great episode. I'm gonna
Yeah,
put that in Kurt's ear. I'm gonna
I'd
text Kurt
go.
and say, dude, you need to get Bergy on here.
I'll
Please.
drive over there. I'll go in there.
You would have a
Yeah,
good time. You would have a really good time. Sorry, I didn't
yeah,
mean to
for
cut you
sure.
off. It's just I
No,
was hoping
no.
this would come up.
And so Cage built those arrows, and I was like, hey, this is what he's doing. This is the broadhead that he's running. Plain and simple. Like, we're not deviating. This is the broadhead that he's using.
Mhm.
And it was at Evolution Outdoors. And I was like, this is the broadhead that he's going to use. He's already ordered them. I've already told him which ones to get. Let's build an arrow for him. And I said, but here's the kicker, Cage. I said, I'm going to tune the bow. I said, but while he's over in Africa, he's also going to be shooting plains game.
Mhm.
I said, but he doesn't want to bring 7 dozen arrows, one to shoot a giraffe, and then a bunch of other ones to shoot plains game. I said, we need to figure this out so that he can run 100 grain evolution outdoors head and then the 150 dangerous game on the same shaft. So all he has to
How
do
do
is
you do that?
switch sight tape wheels
Oh
and
yeah.
screw new broadheads on. Okay. I said, that's what I want. I
Yeah.
said, can you do it? And he goes, yeah, I can do it. So we built an arrow and it ended up being like 450 grains or 480 grains for the plains
Beautiful.
game.
Hmm.
And then when he swapped over to the 150 grain head, he was at like 550 grains. And I tuned the bow with a 100 grain head and a 150 grain head to both shoot bullet holes with the same shaft. So literally all he had to do was swap sight tapes and swap heads, and he went from 480 grains to 550 grains, and or 530, whatever it was,
Yeah.
whatever the final number was.
Mid fives.
And he went out there and he killed like 10 plains game animals and then shot his giraffe,
Mm.
and everything went smooth, blew through everything, even the giraffe. He blew clean through the giraffe. And it's like, dude, like, why are we worried about all this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, if your bow is tuned properly and your arrow is built accordingly, you're going to be totally fine,
Yeah.
um, but people pack their fears,
I
and
mean,
that's
dude,
totally okay.
I'm the living embodiment of that, I feel like, because I was full on fixed blades all off season,
Hmm.
right? And the reason for that is because last year I had a mechanical open up mid flight, and it was
Hmm.
nothing to do with the broadhead. It was all me because I didn't change the collar. But I didn't know that at the
Right.
time. I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, this broadhead, whatever. I'm not going to use it anymore. So I went to fixed blades. And now I'm running both. I got fixed blades, and I'm running the VPA Omega and then the Beast Head. And I'm gonna tell you
Right.
right now, dude, that Beast Head is nasty. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, dude.
I shot a doe with it, huh?
At any given time, I have like I have a 5 arrow quiver. I have 5 different broadheads in there
Yeah.
at any given time. Like, I have Beast Titanium,
Oh, did you already get
Beast.
that?
Yeah, I
I've
got a
got some
Beast
coming, dude.
Titanium. I haven't shot them.
Yeah,
They're in my quiver, but I haven't shot them.
you need to.
Um, I have a Beast Titanium. I have an Evolution Hide. Actually, I have 2 Evolution Hides right now because I really, really like that Evolution
Yeah.
Hide. I have an Evolution Jekyll, and then I usually keep like, I'm probably gonna put like a G5 T2, the new John Dudley broadhead. I'll probably put one of those in there. And then I usually have like one that I just kind of randomly, and whatever arrow I grab, that's just what I'm killing the deer with.
Yeah.
Typically, I grab the second arrow in my quiver every time um, for my first arrow. And typically it's got an evolution on it because I really like Dale Perry over there at
Yeah.
Evolution, and I really like his broadheads. So 95% of the time when I shoot something, it's going to be with an Evolution head.
Yeah.
Um,
Little
but
biased, but I
like,
understand.
yeah, I mean, but with does and stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be like, oh, here's a doe. I'll pull a beast out and see what it does, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I really like the Evolution heads. So typically that's what I'm shooting bucks with. Like if it's a
Yeah.
shot of a lifetime, Evolution hide. That's what I'm
Yeah.
shooting. But there's a lot of good broadheads out there, and I think a lot of people like pigeonhole themselves. They're like, "Oh, I'm only going to shoot fixed blades. I'm only going to shoot Magnus, or I'm only going to shoot VPA. That's all I shoot."
Yeah.
It's like, man, but if you can shoot Magnus really good, then you can probably shoot a Sever really good too.
Mhm.
Why not put one in the quiver?
Yeah.
Try it out. You know?
Broadheads are a thing, dude, that I have talked about and talked about and talked about on here. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that they all work. And
Hmm.
there's certain ones that work better in situations and than others. I mean, the whole reason I decided to go with the beast head is because of the technology behind it. And because I'm hunting on one of my spots is 1 acre. And I need those deer
Hmm.
to die on that acre. And it did it.
Right.
I shot a
Right.
deer with one of the fixed blades, and that deer is still alive. And that's not knocking the fixed blade. It was me. I shot her high. But
Hmm.
I have a better chance with a 2 inch hole on a small property than I do an inch and a quarter or whatever it is. And
Right. And
bigger
see that,
properties, I'll run a fixed blade.
and
So,
I'm a lot of people don't know this. I'm like colorblind
yep.
ish. I can see some colors, I can't see other colors, and it's getting worse as I get older. When I was a kid,
What
I took
color
a
is
lot of
this?
that's green.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
see colors the same way as everybody else. I just
Okay.
don't like when certain colors are next to each other. Like when I
Mm,
was a kid, I took a lot of colorblind tests and I was fine. But as I get older and I take eye tests, it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And um, one thing for me, like, dude, I want a big hole. I want a lot of blood. Otherwise, I can't find it. Like,
yeah.
there's been multiple times where I had to call my wife out to come track deer for me, not because the deer wasn't dead. Like, I'm looking at the arrow's full of blood, and I shot a tiny little fixed blade through this deer, and I'm just not seeing blood on the ground, even though there is blood,
Yeah.
you know. And I had to call her out and be like, "Hey, I need you to track this deer." And she's like, "Oh, there's blood there, there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can't see none of that, you know." And so, um, for me, like that's one reason I really like the hide. You know, that hide it's got a leading fixed blade, and it opens up to 2 inches. You
Yep.
know, and so I get a four-dimensional cut, a four-way cut, and one of those is going to be on massive hole. You
Yeah.
know, and so I get a lot of blood on the ground typically. So for me, I really like that.
Yeah.
But again, a little biased towards Dale.
A
I
little,
really
but
like
it's
Dale
cool.
over there. Dale
Yeah.
is he's been super nice to me and really helpful, and I think he makes a good product, and I think he's a good dude. So
Yeah.
um, even if I thought there was a better broadhead, I'd still probably run Dale's. But I would tell him. I
Yeah.
say, hey, I think XYZ broadhead might be better than yours.
Yeah.
Maybe you should look into changing
Changing some stuff.
XYZ, you know, but I would
Yeah.
still shoot his broadhead. But currently, I do think he has the best, if not one of the best broadheads on the market.
I'm gonna have to look at those again just because I love broadheads. Like I said, I'll talk about them. I've talked about them for hours on here. I'll talk about them for another few hours probably next year. But
Right.
well, before we wrap up, man, I do wanna say I am excited to send you my bow. Just if it's out of tune, uh, I'm sorry. 'Cause I was shooting it. So I kind of want to pick your brain on this real quick. So I was shooting it last week and I had it tuned it before season. Took it up to my local bow shop, some buddies' work, and just said, "Hey guys, I'm seeing some arrow wobble. I know I'm getting contact. Can you just figure it out?" And I remember texting you about it.
Hmm.
Turns out the rest, like you were saying, the center shot, they actually had to move it over some and down. And I think the cord and all of that, because I had put it on, it just wasn't tight enough. So we
Hmm.
fixed all that. It was shooting fine. Last week, I went out to shoot and I noticed that my 40 and 30, the arrow's hitting straight. But my 20, it's kicking, it's not right. And I'm like, well, that's not normal. I haven't changed anything. So I'm like, well, what can I do right now to fix this? So I did two things. Move my rest to the left a little bit, and I'll show you. I'll grab my bow and show you where it's at. Um, I'm pretty sure there's some type of cam lean going on or something's with it because it's pretty far to the left, in my opinion. And the other thing I changed was arrow spine. So I was shooting 300s. Now I'm shooting 350s again. And the 350s, for some reason, are flying better than the 300s.
Right.
So when you get it, I do want to know what you find that's up with it, because I don't think bears are supposed to shoot with the rest pretty far. And I didn't move it much. I moved it like
No bow
half a
is supposed
tick.
to shoot with them out of center.
Do what?
No bow is supposed to shoot with them out of center.
Oh, well.
I've never in the decade that I've been tuning bows and the 5 years that I've owned Bergy Bowsmith, I've never tuned a bow outside of center. Ever. I've never had one outside of center.
I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. For the people watching this video, you're going to get an insight into the stupidity that's
Grab an arrow. Do you have an arrow?
Yeah.
I can show you if there's cam lean right now. No, pull it out. Pull it out. Okay.
Oh yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah,
Okay.
so lean it
Remind me.
on your cam on the opposite side of your mod.
Like that?
Yeah, no, so lean the arrow on your cam, opposite side of your mod. And like make sure it's pressed tight up against that cam and you'll see it lean.
Hold on.
I have an arrow right here and a bow. Give me a second.
Let's see. God, people watching this are going to see how stupid I am.
Maybe I
don't
don't have
do
an
it.
arrow in here. But you basically will lean it like this on the cam.
So like that.
Push into that cam and it'll run down towards your D loop and you'll see it lean to one side or the other. So like put your thumb on the cam.
Okay.
And then with the arrow. And then so I would do it like put the fletchings like below your cam.
Like that?
No, on the other side of the cam. Like where your index finger is. Like put it on the opposite side of the cam.
Like that.
No, like keep going to my left.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, your left. Well, my arrow's stupid short. Look at that.
Yep. No, that's okay. Let me.
Sorry, guys.
So
I wasn't planning on doing a therapy session, but
yeah. Hang on. Let me go grab an arrow.
All right. Let's see if I have a longer one. Okay, so for those listening, we are doing a live bow tuning lesson to see if I have cam lean or not. And then you're also going to see how off center my rest is. Bow shooting great, but yeah, see, this is why I trust Bergy, because he knows his shit.
This is my XF. So if I take my cam on the opposite side of my mod, I just take my arrow and I push it onto my cam.
Yeah.
Level, but as you see, it bisects my cam. It bisects at my D loop perfectly. Okay. Now, if I do that on my top cam, so that was my bottom cam. Now I'm going to do it on the other one. So I'm just going to push the arrow into my cam.
Yeah,
it does the same thing on the top. Bisects my D loop perfectly. So now I know that there's no cam lean in that bow.
So like that.
Yeah. And then when you look up, you can see if it's in line with your D loop. Yeah, see how it points all the way out like that?
It's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of cam lean.
Well, let me show you. All right, so if you can see it, they put right there, they've got the little arrow holder, right center shot.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. I'll knock it and you can tell how much. So it looks like it's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lift it. I guess I can't do it because mine's limb stop or limb driven. But if you look down, I don't know how well you can see it. If you look down there, the whale tail.
Oh yeah, I can see it. It's way out. Yeah.
So sorry.
But yeah, it probably just needs to get shimmed over.
Probably. I mean, like I said, it's shooting fine right now. Um, to the point where, none of my shots are over 25 yards anyway. And
Right.
it's hitting solid, but yeah, it definitely needs to be tuned. And see, my
Yeah.
thing is I'm not saying that the guys that did it didn't want to mess with it, so they just did a quick fix. But I do remember you saying that it always should be center shot, and if it's not, something's wrong. And it's been like that, always off center shot. I even moved it to center
Yeah,
shot.
and
See,
I'll never like talk bad about another shop,
yeah,
but there's just like some people you just don't know what you don't know, right? And if the technician just doesn't know how to fix it, the easiest way to fix it and not look uneducated is to
yeah,
just start moving the rest until it shoots right. And that's the easiest way to do it. And honestly, dude, I was just telling somebody this today. If I could, if I could, I would never tune another bow again other than my own. If I
oh,
could, just because, dude, I have a lot of other passions in life. I like to
true,
hike. I like to hunt. I like photography. I like a lot of other stuff. But at the same time, one thing I really, really love is helping people, right? And being able to tune bows at the level that I am knowledgeable enough to do it. And I'm always learning, I'm always
hmm,
bouncing ideas off of other people. I feel I'm doing a disservice not helping people, right?
yeah,
But there's some days that I wake up and I'm like, dude, I really don't want to touch a Matthews today. And it's just I
yeah,
do it and I love it and I still put 100% effort into it. But there's just some days where I'm just like, I wish I didn't have to tune bows,
yeah,
and I don't have to tune bows, but I would feel like I'm not contributing to the hunting community, right?
yeah,
And that's what I want to do is contribute and give free information and provide a paid for service for the people that don't want to do it themselves, right?
yeah.
Which is Bergy Bowsmith. Um, but if I could, dude, I would go vanish somewhere in Alaska and just hunt the rest of my life,
I've said
if
that
I
for
could.
years.
But that's not the case. Life is
Yeah,
expensive. We got bills, we got houses, we got tags that we got to buy. I got to make money and
yeah,
work a job and tune bows to pay for my hunting addiction. But at the same time, like I never get disappointed if I have a slow month. Like, dude, I took the whole month of October and November off. I
yeah.
closed the website.
I remember you
You
telling
know,
me about that.
and people are like, dude, I'm trying to send you my bow. No, man, I'm hunting.
Yeah,
I'm this is hunting is more important to me right now than tuning your bows. I said, if you guys still want stuff, uh, come December, let me know.
yeah.
Otherwise, I can give you recommendations of other people that I trust. Here they are.
That may have been my fault too, because having you in the intro every week, I'm sure there's been some guys who are like, "Oh, the Bow Wizard, Bergy, okay," and then you're like,
Yeah,
December,
which is fine. I mean, dude,
yeah,
Nick, my string dealer, he turned off orders for a whole month, and I was like, dude, I need to
damn,
place some string orders. And he's
yeah,
like, nah, man, I'm hunting. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
yeah,
I guess I'm going to shut my website down too, and I'm going hunting.
yep,
And so it just, for us, yes, we love to help people. And yeah, we want to bring a good quality service and product. But dude, sometimes you just need to hit that reset button,
yeah,
and a lot of these guys in pro shops, I know because I worked in a pro shop, they never get a reset, dude. They never get a reset. They never get a refresh. And they're just work, 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 tune bows, tune bows, tune bows. And some days I don't have good days, just like everybody. And
yeah,
some days I have bad days. And, but owning Bergy Bowsmith, every day that I decide to go out into my shop, I know that I'm going to have a good day and that I'm going to give my 100% effort because I chose to be there.
yeah,
I don't have to be there. I chose to be there. And a lot of these guys in pro shops don't have that luxury, right?
yeah,
They're doing it because they need to pay the bills, they need to feed their family, they need to do whatever. So sometimes you may not be getting the best work, and it's not because of lack of effort. Maybe they're just having a bad day or they don't have the knowledge or whatever it is.
yeah.
um so that's why I never like talk down about other shops, just
No, of
because
course,
you never know other people's situation. But I know my situation. Like, yeah, dude, there's some days that I get a bow and I'm like, you know what? I'm not having it today. I'm gonna tune it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And when I have a fresh mind and I'm ready to do this. I still turn every single bow that comes in, and once all the materials get here, they still get turned around same day.
Yeah.
Um, but there's just sometimes that yeah, I'll push it off for like an hour if I need to make sure that I'm giving all my customers 100% effort.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
but
it's kind of the
I
same thing
have
with
that
the
luxury
podcast.
though.
Like,
Yeah.
there's days, dude, or weeks where I'm like, God, dude. I mean, I said in the intro, my wife's grandfather just died 3 days ago.
Hmm.
And it has been super hard. I'm not trying to go down that. I'm not trying to make it depressing because I'm happy for the guy. I know where he's at. I know where he went. Super strong in
Right.
his faith. I'm excited for him.
Right.
I've been struggling to be like, oh yeah, I'm so sad he passed. I'm not. I'm like, dude, you were suffering for years, and now you're not. That night
Right.
was insane. If I told you about what happened, we'd be here another hour. It was
Yeah.
crazy what I saw, and it put me at peace with it because I'm like, okay, you're good. But everybody else in the family is kind of struggling with it. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So like this week we had this planned, and I told my wife, I was like, listen, I know you're going to your mom's. I know you're going to support her and stuff. I have this planned. I wanted to do this, but there's been other weeks where I'm like, God, I just don't feel like going down there and you know,
Right.
talking about it because it's
Dude, and
every week. And
podcasts are hard, bro.
yeah,
I
it's fun.
I
And that's the
give
thing. That's the thing with it is like, I've said it before. I have that mentality, and then I get down here and I click record for the intro, and I'm like, hey guys, welcome to, and then it's like right there. I'm in it. No matter what attitude I've got, no matter what's happened, you just
right.
kind of get in it. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but
Yeah, I think
it's
I think we're kind of going down a rabbit hole, but I think this is important because I think a lot of people, especially in today's day and age, it's really easy to hit coast, right? It's really
yeah,
easy to just be like, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna pay my bills, I'm gonna eat my crap food, and then I'm gonna go to bed and I'm gonna rinse and repeat every day.
mhm.
And my
And you're
wife,
80 and
she
you're like, where'd my life go?
my wife tells me all the time, she's like, Jesse, you're always working, always. Like, you wake up, you go to your day job, you come home, you're always tweaking the website, whether it's a font or a color or
Yeah,
adding the bows that I did recently to the gallery or adding new products. You're always on your email or on Facebook helping people. And now, like, I just posted, you saw it, that I'm thinking about starting a Bergy Bowsmith podcast and doing that. And it's like, I did the podcast route twice.
yeah.
I've already tried podcasting twice. All right.
It's tough
And
to
it's
commit to.
not easy. It's
Yeah,
it's not easy to get guests and to consistently put out content. But at the same time, like, what drives me in life, like what drives me in life and is important to me to better myself. And that's constantly improving and helping other people and growing Bergy Bowsmith, right? And I love business, dude. I love business. I love owning a business. I love everything that comes with it. I love the ups, the downs, the building relationships. I love all that stuff. I just it just I don't know like how to say it other than just I just love it,
yeah,
and I every waking minute of the day I'm like, how can I be better? How can I be
yeah,
better? What can I do to make Bergy Bowsmith better, not just for me, but for the other people, and what can I do to help, Eric grow? What can I do to help Nick grow? Like, what can I do, And I think a lot of people lack that control to be like, hey, let's get out of this rut and just do something, even if we don't want to do it, that we're passionate about and that we really, really,
hmm.
truly care about. And I think a lot of people would be way happier if they could do that.
Well, and it's, dude, I can relate that to hunting. Like, I've got probably 5 or 6 shooters on this one spot. And the
Hmm.
last two sits, I got skunked. And
Hmm.
for that, I had a 2-year-old 7 point that I could have shot, but I don't really want to shoot any more young deer. Like, yeah, okay, I've only
Right.
killed one buck with my bow. I've killed others, but the one behind me is the only one I've killed with a bow. I've killed multiple does with the bow, but I'm trying to go a different route. I'm trying to kill the more mature animal. Yet that's proving to be
Right.
extremely difficult. And I've got buddies that are like, oh man, fuck deer and let's go hunt ducks and blah blah blah. I'm like, nah, dude. I was like, the whole reason I even do this is because I love the challenge of it. And yeah, I
Right.
go there and I set. I mean, dude, the stupidest thing. and we probably got to wrap it up with this, unfortunately, but we're going to do another one of these sooner because there's still so much more to talk about. So if your
Right.
availability in January is open, we need to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I got a story about it. My 166-inch buck I've been chasing,
Oh Lord,
and I got sprayed by a skunk in Idaho
dude. And see,
on
that's
a
the thing
10-day
is
hunt.
like people get skunked and they're like, man, this deer hunting stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but
No,
the
no,
thing
I
is,
literally got sprayed by a skunk in
oh
Idaho
God,
on the mountain.
I'm sorry.
I stepped on a skunk on day 3 of a 10-day backcountry hunt.
Oh no.
I stepped on a skunk. I not only did I get skunked on that hunt, I got skunked on that hunt.
Okay, your season's worse than mine. I'm gonna stop bitching. But no, it's just the people give up, dude, and that's it relates to everything, you
Dude,
know?
I almost gave up this year. I was chasing 166-inch, and you'll know why I know the exact score. I was chasing 166-inch typical 10. Missed him. I actually missed.
This the buck you sent me a picture of?
Yeah, the one that I
Oh,
missed on opening day of gun season
uh-huh.
because I took my bow off the hanger and bumped my sight when I took it off because I didn't have my sight locked. Missed to this buck. 2 days later, it gets poached.
No.
And so then now I'm like down in the dumps. I don't have any other target bucks. And I was just like, you know what? My season's done. Middle of November. I'm just going to relax for a couple weeks and then get ready to start taking in bows.
Mm.
And I tell you what, dude, my wife is like my rock. She's like, Jesse, what are you doing? I was like, well, my buck's dead. You already shot a buck. We got plenty of meat. Like, I don't need to go unalive and stuff just to unalive it. It is
I
what it is.
mean, I was
And
gonna
she
say that's when
goes,
you go and shoot, just tag out on spikes.
yeah. And I was like, I don't really have a urge to kill a spike or a yearling
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
young deer. I don't have an urge to do that. I was like, so I think I'm done. And she's like, no, go to XYZ spot. You haven't been there in a couple years. Last time you were there, you shot a buck and it was on a situation like this. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go. And she literally like kicked me out of the house. She's like, go hunting, get out of the house. And I went to this spot, dude, and not 30 minutes into me sitting there, 155-inch buck at 160 yards.
There you go.
And I'm like, we got a game plan now. And then I was just like, hunt, 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 hunt,
Yep.
and but without her there to, keep me in check, of like, hey, don't give up. Like, well, that's not you. You don't give up. You don't roll over. Like, what are you doing? I never would have went out there and saw that buck and knew that he was there, and I'm still hunting him now. I
Yeah.
didn't hunt last weekend because it was a little warm, but I'll be out there this weekend hunting him, and it's the nature of the beast, man. Sometimes you just got to do things that you don't want to do, and sometimes you just need somebody behind you to kind of just push you. Be
Yep.
like, hey, get off your ass and go do something,
I feel like
And
when you hit the points, because I had that deer trike and I
mhm.
haven't seen him in 2 months. I'm still holding that hope that he's gonna come back one of these days. But I feel like when you get to that point where it's like, okay, I have nothing to hunt or nothing I'm doing is working, that's when God's like, why don't you look, just go one more time. Just one more time.
Right.
And then you go and you see whatever deer it is you're trying to kill.
It gets way harder for me after the rut, dude. After the rut, it gets really hard for me.
Yeah,
Because
I
if
hate the
I
rut.
if I don't take out during the rut, like if I
Yeah.
don't take out before or during the rut, after that, my brain is kind of like, mm, I'm probably not gonna fill my tag, and then I start getting like anxious, and I start like getting really, really tight in on the spots and like making mistakes, and like some
Mhm.
like I need to kill a deer, I need to kill a deer, and and so like right now, like dude, we got Christmas is next week,
Yeah, I know.
and I got 2 weekends left of hunting before the end of season, and it's just like I need to figure something out. I need to put something together. I got 4 days to hunt basically,
Yep.
to put something together and try to kill a buck. And I get like kind of anxious, because everybody wants to kill a buck, but I didn't do it during the rut, and I had opportunities during the rut, and I didn't make it happen. And it's just like, oh gosh, and but sometimes you just got to keep on keeping on, man.
Dude, that's
Life's
the
a
best.
garden, dig it, Joe Dirt.
I love it. That's the best way to wrap this up, man. Well, look, Bergs, I appreciate you coming on, dude. We definitely did go longer than we planned, but it was worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, January, we're gonna get you a date. If for some reason that doesn't work, February we'll do it.
Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do January on my podcast?
That's fine. I'm cool with that. You just
We
tell
could
me
do
when,
that.
we'll make it happen. As long as
Yeah,
it's not the end of January, because I'll be in Colorado the last weekend. But
sounds good. Yeah, we'll
yeah,
figure
we'll
something
plan
out.
it. You send me a date and I'll clear it out. So do a quick shameless plug for everybody that maybe doesn't know who you are. Obviously, I'm sending you my bow because it clearly has shitty cam lean. And I need the wizard to put his hands on it and get some of those
Right.
unbound strings, which I'm convinced are the best.
They
I
are.
haven't even used them. I haven't even used them,
I
and what you've told me, they sound like it.
well, and I don't
Um,
claim anything as the best unless I can confidently back that up, and
yeah,
they are the best that I've tried, at least. But yeah, I'm Bergy Bowsmith, www.bergybowsmith.com. Bergy Bowsmith on all platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. My website, bergybowsmith.com. I got products from arrows, broadheads, rests, sights. Sights are going to be added in January. Quivers are going to be added in January. I got all kinds of stuff on there for you guys. It's all stuff that I have hand picked and used and tested and vetted that it works as it should and is the best bang for your buck. Some of the stuff might be a little on the expensive side. Some of the stuff might be on the cheaper side, but I can promise you every single item on my website, I have personally tested and tried every item, um, and used it for over 6 months before I listed on my website. I will not put anything on my website that I've not tested thoroughly and hunted with. So with that being said, there is a discount code for Southeastern Bowhunter Podcast. I want to say it's SEBH10. I want to say.
yeah. Let me
I'll
verify
double
that.
check that though.
I said it in the intro, but let
But
me.
that is good for everything on the website.
Yep.
Anything you guys want, stabilizers, sights, rests, quivers, broadheads, whatever you guys want, it's good for it. Even tuning. It will take
Mm.
10% off of tuning and your strings as well.
Ooh, okay.
So all that stuff is on there. Return shipping's all worked into the tuning process, and I have articles on there that detail my process. And of course, as always, if you have questions, reach out, and I personally answer every single message myself. So yeah, that's who I am. That's what I'm about, and that's what I got.
I love it. I love it. The bow wizard. He's got everything you need. Awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, let me know about the podcast. You know the drill. Send over some photos if you want, videos. I'm still on TikTok. So if you have like videos of you shooting bows or whatever,
Yeah.
or photos or bows you worked on, whatever you want to do, just blow my phone up with it and I'll work on that. Um,
Sounds good.
yeah. But other than that, man, dude, seriously, thank you. I learned a lot.
Yeah,
It was fun
of
talking about
course.
this. It's kind of nice getting back to like not, having to promote one certain thing. It's just kind of, two buddies talking about bows and archery, and we haven't even gotten to the hunting stuff, right? Like there's tons
Yeah.
of things I could tell you about this season. But
Right.
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the next one for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate you having me, man.